you've experienced it all, right? You've been a lecturer. I mean, you've been an e-tutor. An IT trainer.
To have my certificate in matric written 35 words per minute, if I were to pursue any career that requires typing, it would have helped.
Yeah.
And for me, it was the best time of my life because I've been studying online with UNISA. I've been doing distance education. So for me, I'm fluid. I had to again go back to the books. Did my honors while working, did 5 subjects in 1 year because I wanted to finish it as soon as possible.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tech with Jabs. As usual, we never fail, we never disappoint. We've got another special guest. I don't know how many specials I can add here. By the name of Zethu Lubisi. And I guess the reason Zethu Lubisi is here is because he's just going to be sharing some insights into our education system. Many of you will know that it worries me that we see people graduating, we see people studying, but we don't see people getting employed. And that should be concerning to everyone. And that question is, where are all these people going? But before we get to that, we're just going to ask Zethu to just tell us a little bit about herself and what she does on a day-to-day basis. Take it away, Zethu.
Hi, Jabulo. Okay, as you've already mentioned, my name is Zethu Lubisi, originally from Mpumalanga, but now I'm based in Johannesburg because of work. On a day-to-day basis, I'm a learning technologist. I know it's one of those terminologies that I use, but in summary, I work with learning management system, whereby we support students and lecturers in terms of accessing their course content, knowing that we are now doing online learning, which was moved by COVID, although it was already inexistent in our institution because we were using what we call blended learning, whereby it was a combination of the online learning together with offline learning, whereby it's just contact. In short, that is what I would say I do. Yeah.
Okay. I also do know that you founded an organization called Career Hub ZA. Tell us, what was the inspiration behind that?
The inspiration behind that, it started when I started working at a university, because the first university I worked at is Northwest University. I worked for a year before I moved to that.
Yeah.
So upon working there, I realized that there is a gap between matriculants finding information to university in terms of bursaries, application dates, and also access to them, as well as study guides that can assist them. Also the bridge between graduates getting graduate programs, or how they can even start their career. So that is what inspired it. And after realizing that, I saw that, okay, I'm at a privilege of information, because I see these things on the website. Some of those things I work with them. So I started to gather that information and keep it in one place to say, already you're on Facebook. So you might as well use your social media profitably in such a way that you're getting information that will assist you to advance your career. So it was the intention behind that. It was to bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots, because we have this notion that, okay, applying is online, but to a person who's staying at home in the rural areas, they don't even know what or where to begin doing those applications. So that was the inspiration behind that.
That's actually quite a huge challenge. But so has that been fruitful in terms of the number of people that have actually benefited from it?
I would say partially, because initially when I started it, it was a page under it was a group actually under my account.
Yeah.
But my account has a little bit of restriction, with social media. You decide who you want to have at your disposal.
Yeah.
But later I realized that, okay, it's bigger than myself. Let me take it as a page. And then I had it as a page whereby I would say, you're gonna post things. If you come across maybe some vacancies, you can post them. But again, I was very strict in terms of vetting that, because we know the scams that are already online.
Yes.
And as time goes by, somehow I realized that it gets to a point whereby it was a one-way side, whereby the people that I intend to that I initially intended for, or whom I believe it would be beneficiary for them, they're
Yeah.
not using it as I believe they could.
Mm.
But what will happen is that come January,
Mm-hmm.
parents will be calling me
Yes.
asking if I can assist with their children finding spaces in university. And I'll explain to them that university work with dates.
Yeah.
Once the application dates are closed,
Yeah.
as of now, I'm not even working with enrollment. Even if I was,
Yes.
when they say they are closing on the 3rd of this month, that is it.
Yeah.
So I took a gap of it, and I was also going through my own issues, because before you can pour out to people, you should
Mm-hmm.
be filled yourself. So I think it's a platform that I'll revisit, because I need
Yeah.
to re-strategize and see how I can work with it, taking it further, because the problem is still there. It doesn't change. Things are
Yeah. The
still the
problem, in
same.
fact, it's become worse.
Yes, it has become worse, considering now,
Mm.
from last year to this year,
Yeah.
everything rapidly moved to online. No
Yes.
one was prepared for it,
Yeah.
and it's a huge challenge.
Sure. Sure. It's very interesting. I really do hope you do pick it up again, Zitzi, because it's one that's needed. I've had a couple of interviews, previous interviews, and I do know that some of the guys have actually created platforms in the past. They've also had challenges, I think, with conversations, maybe with governments as well, and then
Mhm.
they also want to continue with it in the future. And so, listening to you now as well, and some of the challenges you've also experienced from your platform, whose sole aim was really to assist people in finding work. I think that's actually quite an important one, and I'm hoping that you'll carry that baton again later in the future. Okay, so Zetu, you've experienced it all, right? You've been a lecturer. I mean, you've been an e-tutor. I mean, an IT trainer. So there's basically various levels of education that you've been involved in. So I think you'd be the perfect person as an academic to talk to. Where are we going wrong? Why are we seeing such high unemployment rates? And yet, people say that people are graduating, as I had mentioned earlier on, or some people may not necessarily graduate, but they studied something, and when they finish, they're actually looking forward to get a job. So, but where are things going wrong?
From my own perspective, or from my own experience, it's
Mm.
a combination of
Yeah,
a lot of problems.
yeah,
Because my first employment was being a teacher in a high school
mhm,
situation.
yeah,
So what I picked up during my years was that the curriculum itself
yes,
is not directing or leading students to the right path.
yeah,
So what has happened is, over the years, there have been a lot of changes that have been occurring.
yeah,
First of all, it started with the educators, already the staff morale on their
yeah,
side, because today they are doing this, the following day they are doing that. And the rapid changes are also confusing for them. While they're still trying to grasp this, they are changing the policies, or they're changing certain things. That is number one. Number
yeah,
two, also, when they introduced OBE, they started
yeah,
bulking subjects. They canceled accounting,
yes,
economics and business economics in grade 8, grade 9,
yeah,
and then they only introduced it in grade 10. I'll make
yeah,
that example with, because that was my field, and that is
yeah,
one subject that I taught.
yes,
When you get to EMS, already those three subjects are too bulk to be taught in one subject.
yeah,
You expect that in a week or in an 8 cycle, because in those days we had cycles of 8 days.
yes,
You will have like maybe 2 or 3 periods for economic management science. You're
yeah,
supposed to be teaching that content. And
yes,
in grade 8 and grade 9, that is where you start the basics of accounting,
yeah,
a simple thing,
mm,
principles of accounting equation.
yes,
So again, that is one example. And
mhm,
secondly, you'll find that maybe when it comes to subject allocation, they'll put a person in economic management science
yeah,
who might have measured maybe in business science, they didn't do economics, or they didn't do accounting
yes,
to that extent level. So already the student will be disadvantaged.
yeah,
When the subject is being taught, the person might focus maybe on their strength.
mm,
So again, I would pick up, because I was teaching grade 8 and grade 9 economic management science.
yeah,
When they're in grade 9, I
mm,
would say this is something that you would have done in grade 8. They'll tell me that we've never done this thing, we've never seen it all together.
sure,
Okay, let's say grade 8 and grade 9 did not work well. You get to grade 10. This
mm,
student is supposed now to choose a path.
mm,
They're supposed to choose whether they're gonna do commercial subject, or they're gonna do science, or they're gonna do history and geography.
Mm,
The person doesn't have a background, that
mm,
much of a background. That is also another issue.
mm.
Or maybe they might be that good. They do accounting, but now they have a choice to do either mathematical literacy or they can do pure maths. That
Mm,
is also another problem because when you're going to do a BCom accounting,
mm.
the entry requirements again is pure maths and accounting.
Yes.
Another issue that I also picked up is that the career exhibitions are done in grade 11 or grade 12. What can you do at grade 11 and grade 12? Because they cannot change. They're supposed to start maybe as early as grade 6 or grade 7, so that when a student goes to high school, they're already aware what subject they're going to encounter, what opportunities are there. Are those opportunities existing in our current ecosystem?
Yeah.
And what value are they going to bring? So it's a whole lot of issues that I've picked up. That is with primary education, maybe primary and secondary education.
Yeah.
I had I get exposed in FET. There was a time where I was working with content for FET colleges.
Yes.
That was in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Upon my surprise, I find that a computer skills study guide
Yeah.
had a floppy disk.
Yes.
I studied floppy disk in 2002 when I
Yes.
was in varsity. I used those things in 2002 and 2003. I think 2003, 2004. Flash disk started being introduced in 2000 and I think it was 2005 who started using that.
Mm.
And you ask yourself, the person is doing a skill because FET are supposed to bridge a gap again on the skills. The person is being taught content that is irrelevant.
Extremely irrelevant.
So it's a whole lot of issues. So all these issues feed into, by the time the person gets to varsity,
Yes.
there's a huge gap.
Yeah.
And when they get to varsity, varsity now requires you to be self-motivated.
Mm-hmm.
You should be knowing we are
Mm-hmm.
running short of time.
Yeah.
The focus is finishing the curriculum.
Yes.
Has learning taken place? It is not taken place. We're
Mm.
focusing on the assessment.
Mm.
Does this person did this person actually grasp something?
Yeah.
And that there's a problem. So it's a whole issue whereby
Mm.
I believe what can solve this,
Yeah.
the universities should not be taking decision in silos. It
Mm.
has to start from basic education, the
Mm.
Minister of Basic Education, the Minister of Higher Education, the rectors of those universities, or whosoever is going to be representing the university to say, what is it that we are bringing in the pipeline from the beginning until the end?
Yeah.
And again, looking at the economy, what job opportunities are available? If
Mm.
we see that this particular field is no longer profitable, why are we still accepting students to do a course that when they graduate, they are told that there are no jobs?
Mm. Mm.
So it's a whole issue. And again, you get to the companies have to come up with to say, these are the skill sets that we are looking for,
Mm.
so that by the first year, you know that at first year to third year, whatever that you're doing, it will have a position or a space in the economy. So it's a whole ecosystem that needs all these role players to play together, not to work in silos.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Zethu, I could let you continue and continue and continue and continue. No, to be, I'm actually, I'm being real because she's like the things you've shared right now. I think if we could just get just one of them right, I mean, the impact that it would have on the whole ecosystem, as you had mentioned as a whole, would be phenomenal. And I can see you're
Mhm.
actually passionate about them because the other thing I was thinking of while you were speaking was the fact that I can imagine then the frustration that both teachers and students would be. Let's go back to that primary
Mhm.
or high school level. I can imagine the frustration that both teachers and students would be experiencing at that level. Because the one is like, but I'm changing curriculums all the time. How do you expect me to teach this and feed it to students? And the students would be like, but we
Mhm.
started this now, ma'am, and you expect us to actually pass. Oh, how does that make sense? So I guess that frustration would obviously not lead to a very progressive career path as far as education is concerned. And then I asked myself this questions, another question as well, as while you were talking, is the fact that right now we mentioned OPE education and all those types of things. But my next question now relates to, are all schools experiencing this? Let's go to private school education, because then, and the reason I'm asking you this is because if there's a difference, then obviously the one group would have an advantage over the next with regards to tertiary education. Then in that case, then the scales are not balanced. Yes, sure, you will have a couple of people, which is the minority case where certain people actually excel regardless of the situations. But I don't think it should be a norm that you get those uneven scales as far as education is concerned, because then it would further open up a wider gap when once someone finishes. If you started off on a wrong footing, then obviously when you get to the corporate environment, you're still on that uneven footing. Then it's hard to bridge that gap. So what do you think about the private education? I don't know if you've had any experience in the private sector as far as education is concerned, and what are your views thereof?
Luckily, I've been exposed again to private institution, but at a higher institution level.
Yes.
I did lecturing at CTI and MGI, which is now called Pearson Institution of Higher Learning.
Yeah.
Starting with those ones,
Yeah.
they are resourced
Yes.
in terms of infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the curriculum that is introduced, as well as extra programs that they introduce.
Yeah.
Because what I've also picked up is that should they notice that there's a learning gap
Yeah.
in a particular student,
Yeah.
they introduce intervention programs whereby those students would be having extra classes. I for one, I had exposed to that in my high school level
Mm-hmm.
because we did typing. So
Yes.
my typing speed was very slow.
Mm-hmm.
And my teacher picked me up from a group to say, you're going to stay afternoon. At first, it felt like a punishment.
Yeah.
And to have my certificate in matric written 35 words per minute,
Mm-hmm.
if I were to pursue any career that requires typing, it would have helped.
Yes.
And apart from that, it assisted me because I did computers. I did not computer science. I did some of the modules in computer science because I did information technology. So my background with typing, that my typing skill helped me a lot. Even today, when I have to do an assignment, I don't stress because I know that when it comes to typing, it's very fast.
You're done.
So
Time. Mm-hmm.
I'm done in time. And by the others are spending time doing other things. So again, you go back to private schools.
Yeah.
Those kids, they're using iPads, they're using computers. That is number one already.
Yeah.
We are having online education. They've already adjusted. It's a huge adjustment, yes.
Yeah.
But if they start grade one with a tablet or with an iPad or whatever technology that they're using, they're already their brains are now used to using those facilities.
Yes.
Their playing field is no longer even,
It can't be.
regardless of maybe their intellect in terms of other issues. So now you take that student who has been exposed to computers at an early age, who can now adjust. They are no longer having these anxieties.
Yeah.
They don't have a problem.
Yes.
But the student that just rapidly had to do now online education, that is a huge difference.
Yeah.
Again, I'll relate it back to myself. I'm doing my master's with vets. When our classes moved online, some of our classmates were very frustrated. And for me, it was the best time of my life because I've been studying online with UNISA. I've been doing distance education. So for me, I'm fluid. I can work with a group and I can also work on my own. So already those issues. So when going back to your question, already those students, they're having infrastructure. The numbers are smaller because in a classroom, they have a limit. They would say 30. With 30 students, as a teacher, you know the performance. If there's a problem, you are able to pick it up immediately. During my teaching days, I had 70 students in one class. Students who benefited the most are those who were sitting at the front, who were intelligent, self-motivated, the ones that you indicated. So what happened to the other lot who are still trying to find themselves, who are still going through their stages? Because there's a lot of things that goes to the development of a human being.
Yeah.
So if that child is disturbing in class, what do? We chase them out. When they are being chased out, it's already lost. They've already lost.
Yeah.
So all those things fit into that.
Mm.
So in terms of infrastructure, they're disadvantaged. In terms of the fact that there'll be schools that won't have a textbook at a particular time, that is a problem on its own.
Mm.
Where those students gonna be learning
Mm.
with the lockdown
Mm.
occurred? My sister is a grade, I think grade 5 teacher.
Mm.
The lockdown happened in March.
Yeah.
In March, there's those children are still trying to adjust. Some of them they don't know even how to write.
Mm.
She's teaching Siswati, which is our home language.
Yeah.
She'll tell me that they can't even read Siswati
Mm.
in grade 3. In grade 5, which is
Mm.
standard 3.
Mm.
So can you imagine what's going to
Mm.
happen? So those children already they are disadvantaged. They are saying they take their workbooks and they go home. They don't do anything.
Mm.
So also the home environment is also feeding into it. So there's quite a lot of issues. And those students or those kids who go to private school, they
Mm.
have support from their parents. When they have homeworks, their parents are there supporting them.
Mm.
They have all these extra resources and they have tutors.
Mm.
So in an ideal world,
Mhm.
we would love to have maybe even ourselves, because even in the communities that we might have grown up in,
Mm.
tutor programs whereby we gather these children, they study on their own, but there is that support that is provided to them. So I would say I'll still mention that there's still a lot of issues that needs to be addressed,
Mm.
and we cannot think that at a tertiary level we can address issues that started 12 years ago.
Huge
It's highly
challenge.
impossible.
It's
Yeah.
it's it's really impossible. It really, really is
Yeah.
impossible. And then I guess as you mentioned these issues there too, then I guess what comes to mind to me is the fact that and we've got all these issues. And in as much as I respect institutions of higher learning, your VITs, for instance, where you're at, but my next question becomes surely then, wouldn't you be better placed or better poised to actually assist the government in addressing these issues? So I guess what I'm trying to ask is, are there platforms for people such as yourself, academics, people that have actually, not just academics, but people that have experienced the various levels of education, so to actually voice the factual things that they've seen, actual facts that they've seen, the realities, in fact, I should say, to voice their opinion, their facts on the realities that they see every day or that they've seen in the past. Are there platforms for you to communicate with government, whether on a personal capacity or even in the institution that you currently are in?
I would say they have been or they are, because
Mm.
in some instances, I've attended conferences, because that
Yeah,
is also another place where this conversation get to take place.
yeah,
The biggest issue or what could solve any problem, it's willingness
yeah.
from all parties,
Mm.
regardless of whether these platforms are there. Because I might share these ideas. I remember there was a conference that I attended in 2019, yeah,
Yeah,
if not mistaken,
yeah,
in Durban.
yeah.
We spoke about this, and it was a combination of universities of technologies as well as TVET colleges.
Mhm,
That is one of the platforms. I think there was one of the MEC of education, all those stakeholders.
mhm,
When we are there, the question is, after we've had those conversations, what gets to be implemented? I'll make another example. I think it was last year, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, last year, on social media, I DM the MEC of Education
mhm,
in Gauteng, Mr.
mhm,
Panyaza Lucifi. I indicated that I don't know how much has changed when it comes to curriculum, because I've left the education fraternity,
mhm,
the basic education some years ago, I think 5 or 6 years ago.
mhm,
But these are the issues that I've encountered.
mhm,
What he gave me, his word was that he would speak to those who are responsible for curriculum. Again, politics does play a major role. We
mhm,
cannot ignore the part of when I speak of willingness.
mhm, mhm,
So I indicated to him the issues that I've experienced or things that I've identified. I mentioned the issue of subject choices,
mhm,
as well as the career path, um, the career exhibitions. And then he indicated that, okay, he will speak to people in his team who are dealing with curriculum, because you can't expect him to be all over the show.
Yeah.
But at the very least, you'd expect that first conversation gets to be
Mm.
initiated and kickstarted and kept going.
Mm.
So those are some of the platforms that I have used,
Mm.
as well as conferences. But again, we are now in the middle of the pandemic. Some of these things are there, but we'll have to find a way to solve them. But also coming to the issue of basic education, it is also has to do with the willingness from the principals,
Mm-hmm.
because some of them, a lot, I would say, looking at the current educators in the field,
Mm-hmm.
some of them, they are just there to be check collectors. There are very
Yeah.
few
Mm.
who are invested in the future of those children. But we shouldn't paint everyone with the same brush.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a matter of all the stakeholders coming
Mm.
into part and putting the interests of the black child, or not only the black child, or
Yeah.
just the child who is at school. Because out the reason why I mentioned the black child is because we are mostly affected, and this thing is continuous. It doesn't end. It goes on and on and on. So all these fields that fit into it
Yeah.
need to come to the play and work on this. Yeah.
Mm. And it actually speaks to the fact that, many people often say it's a ticking time bomb, and that's true.
Mhm.
It cannot be. Imagine that too. You can't tell me if the numbers keep on increasing like this, there wouldn't come a point where everyone is fed up and they're like, I mean, I've tried for 10 years to find a job and I'm a graduate, but I can't even find something. Then obviously those frustrations do boil up because they're humans. And I mean, when you think about it, do you blame them? So it literally is a ticking time bomb if people don't take it seriously. I suppose one of the things that we need to look at as well, which I will do, is for instance, my particular conversation with you, I will also say
Mm.
to, I will DM them. Our conversation, as soon as I upload it, I will DM them and say, please have a look, Minister, so and so, because I feel like these conversations are extremely important, and for us to just ignore them would be us basically just watching our country go down the drain in that sense, because it's not something to be ignored, especially when something is perpetual and it continues over and over time and it gets worse and worse. So for us to sit back and be like, because I'm working, I'm fine, let me just turn a blind eye, just for me, it doesn't make sense. And I guess one of the other biggest things as well is, you mentioned teachers as well. I guess from a teacher's point of view is sometimes I think that, because you were also you've taught some of the lower level grades as well, is frustration. I think when people don't feel supported at times, they end up not caring at all. And I think in some instances that's what's happening. When people don't feel like they're being supported and their views are heard, they're like, I'll go to work just to do my job and then go back home and look after my kids, etc., etc. So that's why I think conversations like this are extremely important, to say there are people out there that do care and that actually do want to do something about the current situation. Yeah. And so, but when it comes to your own journeys, what led you to becoming a learning technologist? I mean,
Surprisingly, I would say nothing happened by chance. Not
mhm,
even surprisingly, I believe
mm,
in that nothing happened by chance, and I
mhm,
believe God doesn't waste experience.
mhm.
When I completed my degree in become information technology,
Yes.
I saw myself as a database administrator.
Mhm,
I thought I cannot have much interaction with people. I'd rather speak to machines.
mhm.
That was my idea.
Yeah.
When I completed my degree, because I studied at University of Zululand,
Mm,
those years were the years when student protests started to be very like wild
mm,
before fees must fall.
mm,
And on those times, it was only our university,
mm,
TUT, and
mhm,
Univenda who had those protests. It disturbed
mm,
our schooling, actually,
mhm.
because I
Yeah.
remember that year we were suspended from school
Mhm,
for 2 weeks.
mhm,
And surprisingly enough,
mm,
the leadership on those days, when it comes to SRC, it was, I think it's Deputy Minister now, Njabulo Nzuza.
mm,
We were in the same accounting class.
mm,
And I would say I would have expected people like him to
Mm-hmm.
be at the forefront of student voices because they've experienced it, they
Mm,
know it.
mm,
So in with that made me want to be far away from that environment.
mm,
Because when I went to fetch my academic record,
mm.
one of my lecturers whom I had a good relationship with
Yes.
offered me a junior lecturing position.
Mm.
But because of the riots that were happening at that time, the protests, because from that moment you're thinking I'm being delayed in my
Yes.
career.
Yeah.
I would have I would have considered that,
Mm,
but instead I found computer skills teaching job.
mm-hmm.
And funny enough, I was hired as a person with a academic qualification, not a professional teaching qualification. So I
Mm-hmm.
was hired with my degree,
Yeah.
and then I started working as a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
When I worked as a teacher,
Mm,
the first thing that I did in that particular school,
mm.
I my approach to education was always in a technological way.
Yeah.
I introduced to them that how about we do our lesson plan on a computer
Mm-hmm.
so that next year you don't write another lesson plan. Next year you go and edit and look what worked, what didn't work, and then you print it out.
Saving
And then
time.
again, it makes your, yes, it saves time.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, it also make your paperwork neat because there's times where we are being monitored.
Yeah.
So at first it looked like okay now it was a culture shock for some of them,
Mm-hmm.
but advantageously I had one of the best principal at that time,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Habile, who was an advocate also of technology.
Yes.
So he started buying computers for each and every HOD.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I was looking at how they were doing mark schedule. They were doing it with a pen.
Mm-hmm.
Should the circuit says we're gonna add 5% for across, they had to do it manually. So
Mm.
I taught them how to make use of Excel and use auto calculations, which
Mm.
simplify their work.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a shift,
Mm-hmm.
but for them, they started seeing that, oh, okay, this actually makes sense. It
Mm-hmm.
saves our time.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I left, because I was at that school for about 3 years, by the time I left, every teacher was now computer skilled because I would have them after work.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the love for teaching started there.
Mm-hmm.
At first, it was a more like just getting a job because I was unemployed for about 3 months or 4 months. So the
Yeah.
frustration,
Mm.
anything to keep me doing something.
Yeah.
And while I was there, the funny thing is that for 5 years, when you ask me what was my occupation, I used to say I'm a teacher for time being because I thought just passing here because I have IT out there that I need I need to do. And I think in 2011, because
Mm.
I started in 2006 around April, in
Yeah.
2011,
Mm.
there was the introduction of Funda Lushaga. So what was happening
Oh, I
because I was
see
not,
phones are yes. Mm.
yes, I was still not a permanent teacher, and I didn't want to
Mm.
do a PGCE, which is a
Mm. Mm.
postgraduate certificate in education that makes you a qualified teacher. Because in my
Yeah.
mind, I'm a teacher for time
For the
being.
time being, yeah.
So, so come January, the
Mm.
policy was that people that are gonna be absorbed first, it's
Mm.
gonna be people with Funza Lushaga,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're gonna absorb. So during those times of when Funza Lushaga was being introduced, so by January, February or March, our salaries will be delayed.
Mm.
So when they were delayed, it led to a frustration.
Mm.
I realized that okay, this is not sustainable for me,
Mm-hmm.
and as well as career growth because I felt stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to continue with my honors in
Mm-hmm.
IT because
Mm-hmm.
that is where I thought I should be growing,
Mm-hmm.
but I was not in an IT field.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a position at one of the private FET college,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is now called TVET colleges.
Mm-hmm.
And then I resigned. It came with a cut in a salary
Mm-hmm.
as well as benefit. You know, government has those little benefits.
Mm-hmm.
But that discomfort pushed me. I would
Mm-hmm.
say it really pushed me because I worked there for a year.
Yeah.
And then I tried applying for jobs.
Yeah.
You know, when people are talking about looking for jobs, I've been there. To
Yes.
get us something stable, it took me 11 years.
It's not
And
easy.
it frustrated me a lot.
Not easy.
And you have to be a motivation to the people that you are teaching, but you're demotivated yourself.
Mm.
And that job ended in a retrenchment.
Mm.
So I was retrenched for about 6 months,
Mm.
went back home.
Mm.
I would say I had a very strong support system from home,
Yeah.
from my family.
Mm.
And within that 6 months at home, because I had
Mm.
already acquired my own debts,
Mm.
lucky enough, I had families that came through. One of my cousins just came through and assisted me with getting my car paid.
Yes.
And within 6 months, I got a job. Then, when I got a job, it was at CTI as an IT lecturer.
Mm.
Then my mother said, at this point, my darling, you don't have a choice. We have to go and do the PGCE. You now have experience as a teacher.
Mm.
You have actually shown that you have fallen in love, because at some stage I was assisting my sister and her friends when they were doing their national diploma in education. So I was teaching them mathematics.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do it just nje,
Mm.
as a top up.
Mm.
So I worked at and I was
Mm.
part time lecturer, because
Mm.
at that stage they started introducing those part time lecturing, as well as you needed to have a particular qualification to teach a particular qualification.
Yeah.
Again, I would say I had one of the best managers who believed in me, who
Mm.
saw greatness in me when I didn't even believe in myself.
Yeah.
So he was very supportive. So when I joined them in 2013,
Mm.
I was having a lot of hours
Mm-hmm.
of lecturing, so that I can make ends meet,
Mm-hmm.
as well as doing my PGCE.
Mm-hmm.
So I continued with the PGCE.
Mm-hmm.
And on second year, I had to do teaching practices.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing almost three things at one.
Yeah.
And while I was there, he also exposed me to, because they also changed their assessment style. In the past, they would have a service provider designing examinations for them.
Yeah.
And then there were complaints that lecturers were complaining that sometimes the content that is being assessed is not what is being taught. So
Mm.
they started introducing lecturers to say, okay, let's have lecturers being the one creating the assignment, setting up
Mm.
exam.
Mm-hmm.
My manager put my name, and I was still, I would say I was a bit inexperienced, but somehow,
Mm.
so he might have seen something that I didn't see in myself.
Mm.
I started doing those examination, and it helped me a lot,
Mm.
because it expanded more of my knowledge and sort of the things that I would do.
Mm.
And there was quite a number of things that we're doing. And already that institution, because private institution, coming back again to private institution,
Mm.
they're always ahead.
Mm.
They had already started using a learning management system, so they were still testing different learning management system. So
Yeah.
it exposed me to different learning management system.
Mm.
And those were the days when Google started having Google Docs,
Mm-hmm.
your Google Drive, and all of those things. So
Yeah.
I started introducing it to also my colleagues, to say, instead of saving things on your computer which might crash,
Yeah.
or which you might lose it, how about start using cloud storage?
Mm-hmm.
And then I started training them
Yeah.
on using those services,
Mm.
as well as they were giving us tablets. We
Yeah.
started having tablets as part of our resources.
Mm-hmm.
So I was training some of the colleagues to say, okay, what we can do and what we can improve on our teaching and all of those things.
Mm.
Little did I knew that that will actually open a door for me when I finally decide to move. So I finished my teaching certificate, then I
Mm-hmm.
became a qualified teacher.
Yeah.
But again, now I was under the pressure, because
Mm.
for me to teach third year IT degree student, I needed to have an honors.
Yeah.
So I had to again go back to the books.
Mm-hmm.
Did my honors while working, did
Mm.
5 subjects in 1 year, because I wanted to finish it as soon as possible.
mm,
At the very same time, I needed to do some little jobs on the side to make sure that I cover my monthly expenditures because I was not permanently employed. So
yeah,
I was a freelancer, I would say,
mm, mm,
and I did a bit of invigilation here and there. So all of those things,
mm,
still trying to make a living.
mhm,
So immediately after I completed my honors degree,
mhm,
I started applying
yeah,
rapidly.
mm,
Like every day, the first thing that I would do
mm,
after I have exhausted my emails or whatever, if I'm not having any classes,
mm,
I'll have tabs of all the university.
yes,
I would say the path of the university was inspired by a high school friend
yeah,
who I reconnected with when I was doing my honors because I didn't do essay type of content in varsity. I
yeah,
was more of a practical because computer science and commercial subject is more of it is more practical based than it will be essay based. So
mhm,
I was like clueless. I was in the deep
mm,
end. So when I reached out to her,
mm,
we had a conversation, and then she introduced to me
mm,
the subject of public university. And then she indicated that yes, public universities they might not be paying so much, but the advantages of working there. First
mhm,
of all, you get to study for free. You get to
mhm,
go to conferences, which exposes to different platforms, and the networking is vast.
yeah,
Then when I got my honors degree, I started applying. In my mind, I wanted to do junior lecturing because already I have experience in teaching,
mhm,
and also I have been exposed back to IT because the reason why I resigned from education
yeah,
to um and I to be an IT trainer was
mhm,
to revive my IT skills. You know how IT is. If you
mhm.
stay away for
You
six
have to
months,
stagnant. You
you
can't,
are
you can't
you're
afford to,
gone, you're lost.
yeah, mhm,
So that was the initial idea.
mm,
So when I was the modules that I was lecturing,
mhm,
they were teaching me as well. They were exposing me to other things that are currently done in the industry.
mhm,
And I would say I applied
mm,
rapidly. I had my CV on all the university database
mhm,
as far as Eastern Cape, as far as vendor, every province. I was willing to go to anywhere.
yeah,
So while I was still job hunting,
mm,
my CV was in the Northwest University database.
mhm,
My first job at the university, I did not apply for it. They found
mm,
my CV on the
mm,
database.
yeah,
So, also to address the issue of unemployment,
mhm,
people should not take for granted having their CVs on the databases. That
yeah,
is one of the most important things because some institutions or some companies they work on their database and also they use the application tracking system
mhm,
whereby it looks for keywords in your CV.
yeah,
So what happens is that if your CV doesn't have the keywords for the job that is being advertised, you're already kicked out of the system, even if you are relevantly qualified, relevantly experienced. So
yeah,
they pick my CV, and
mhm,
when they pick my CV, they call me for an interview. It was an academic developer.
mhm,
So with academic developer, what we were doing, I was hired based on the honors in IT
mhm,
because
yeah,
it was an honors in business informatics
mhm,
plus my experience in education. So they needed the combination.
mm,
So being multi-skilled now came to my advantage.
yeah,
So the fact that I've been in front of students
mhm,
and I've worked with academics where I
mm,
was training my colleagues,
yeah,
it came in handy because now my work it included training lecturers
mhm,
in terms of technologically enhanced
yeah,
education.
mm,
So that is how it started now directing me to that path to say, oh, there's actually a world where one can work with lecturers
mm,
using IT as well as using education skills. So my being multi-skilled opened a door for me.
yeah,
So that is how I got to the university, and then I worked for a year.
mhm,
While working for a year, I attended a conference. While attending a conference, I met up with a lady,
yeah,
conversated with her,
mhm,
not even knowing who she is and where she works. And she indicated that she's actually working at VET. And
mm,
she indicated that they're gonna be having vacancies because universities by then were starting to introduce blended learning, whereby there's online learning
Mm-hmm.
plus the contact.
Mm-hmm.
So having that conversation, fine, we said our goodbyes,
Mm-hmm.
but it's taken to my mind. I was okay. My job was okay. Like I was having good opportunities. My managers, my colleagues were working very well. And
Yeah.
I'd already enrolled to continue with my master's. But I kept on looking because we never stopped looking. While I
Mm.
was looking at the website, at VET's website, I found the position and
Yeah.
applied.
Yeah.
And after applying, they called me for an interview, Skype interview. So when
Yeah.
I did a Skype interview, for me it was just, oh, let me
Mm.
just get done and do with it because I have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I became successful in that interview.
Mm.
That is how I moved from Northwest University to Vet University. So when I got to Vet University, they were also building their own structure because our unit was a new unit. You start
Yeah.
introducing your own things
Oh,
and you're
nice.
studying your own
Opportunity to
culture,
be creative.
deciding on how you're gonna run.
Mm.
Yes.
Mm.
So I would say that is how my learning technologies came about. It was not
Mm.
a planned.
Yeah.
It was I would say it was the universe as well as God guiding me to that path because
Mm.
having both of those skills put me in a position to say I can maneuver this, I can maneuver that. And also having studied at UNISA
Mm.
doing distance education because part of my interview questions they asked me if I've been exposed to learning management system and to what an extent. And it happened that UNISA and University of Northwest they were using the same learning management system.
Yeah.
So I've been exposed as a student. So
Mm.
already when I got to be a professional in them, I
Mm.
started now being the advocate for students. So
Mm.
whenever decision were made, I will ask them, have you considered student in this? Have you
Yeah.
considered their accessibility? Have you considered how will it impact them? And you find that sometimes they focus on developing lecturers, they focus on having these fancy technologies, but they forget that the end
Mm.
user is the student.
Yeah.
So that is how everything came together and completed the whole picture.
Mm. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Great. Sounds like a journey.
Yeah,
And
it has been. I mean, mhm,
sure, I guess then the next thing is you start to think she's personally, right? I start to think to myself,
mhm,
with this long journey and all this experience, obviously currently right now at Wits, which is awesome. But then you can't help but wonder. One can't help but wonder, in as much as obviously I'm not involved in your career decisions, but now one can't help but wonder and say, then all this experience which has been gathered over the years of the strengths and the weaknesses of the current system, then surely if there are people that are willing to listen, because often we get into this whole circle of, as you had mentioned earlier on, of just talking about issues. We do the same when it comes to our economy as well. We talk about it. Basically, whatever big pillar that we want to look at, we're always talking and we're not seeing people that are implementing it. Sometimes the people at the top are willing to implement something, but then the message gets filtered down. By the time it gets to the lower end, to sort of more your lower management, nothing gets done, and everyone just carries on with the status quo and continues with the same thing. So I guess what I'm saying is, if Zetu, with this long journey that you've had, it would really be great if we could somehow find a way to make sure that your voice gets heard more, in the sense of, so that it can start to assist other people that are actually saying, no, we see the problems, but let's work at a fix. And I know it's not a short-term solution, but as long as there's actually a fix and something starts to get done, because we do see this ticking time bomb, and we see it, the time, it's almost like a countdown. That's how it's looking at the moment, like a serious countdown. And not even from a ticking time bomb, just from looking after our fellow women and men, to say we can't just be happy sitting in the comfort or luxury of our own homes when there are people out there that are actually unemployed. And as you know, unemployment really is a very frustrating and demoralizing, demotivating thing, where you feel low, 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 low. So if there's just one thing that we can change, to assist people, I think it will make a huge difference. But yeah, but anyway, that was just as a side note. So on that note, so I guess what I want to ask you, Zaytu, now is the relevance of tertiary institutions in this day and age. And I'll actually, what I often like to get from these sessions or these episodes as I'd call them, is to get expertise and views. So I normally like to play with scenarios, right? And ask you what you would, because we always want the best. So I need to see what you would do in the current scenarios, right? And these scenarios, I'm just thinking about them even right
Okay.
now as we speak. So and they all allude to the relevance of obviously education right now, but higher education. And sometimes I do know not everyone will be able to get to institutions, so that's just a reality. But anyway, not to take too much time. So what would you say to someone right now who is just matriculated, right? And I'm talking from bare bones to
Hmm.
you telling them to literally go out there into the streets and try something. But what did you say to someone right now that's just matriculated, right? They're from the rural areas, and and they know that even their subjects that they passed will not give them access to a tertiary institution in terms of the points that they needed to get into one, and they're literally at a dead end. Their parents keep on telling them to apply, but deep down inside they know that they're applying, but it's not gonna go anywhere. Um, that's the one scenario.
For someone who might be looking for a start, let's take maybe for a job or even studying further
Mhm,
for in that regard.
mhm,
Firstly, look at what are your strengths, what are your skills, what are your talents,
mhm,
because most of the time we focus on the end goal, which is the job, or we focus on I want to be a doctor, but what do you like?
mhm,
What are you good at? Because what you are good at might finance your dream job or your dream career.
mhm,
So firstly, let them look around what they are good at, what are they capable of doing, because we focus a lot or more on that particular one. Like I was in that circumstance, because if I had focused that I did IT, I wouldn't have explored other avenues.
mhm,
So look at the opportunities that are available, and don't be scared to start at the bottom. We all started somewhere,
mhm,
because that is also another mistake that we make. We don't want to be packers at a shop. We don't want to be waitress. We don't want to do minimal jobs, because I want to do this. I want to go study.
mhm,
By the time you are still at home, you would have gotten experience. Waitering at a restaurant might look at as just a job that is not maybe fulfilling your dreams or your goals at that moment,
mhm,
but it can be a job that can open an opportunity for you. I'll make an example with my sister.
mhm,
She started working as I just forget the names that they call them at. She was working at Pick and Pay, working for Unilever.
mhm,
So what she did, she saved some money.
mhm.
After saving some money, she applied at the Northwest University to do her national diploma in education.
Yeah.
She funded herself throughout. Yes, my mom was assisting here and there,
Mhm,
and she completed the diploma and still continue working at Pick and Pay,
mhm,
to the point where she finally got a job as a teacher.
mhm,
If she would have given up and said, I'm not going to work at a supermarket
mhm.
because I have a qualification, because she had studied prior,
Yeah.
she wouldn't be where she is today.
Mm,
So, what I would say is, do not despise the days of small beginnings, as they
mm,
would normally say.
mm,
Take the job,
mm,
whatever kind of a job it is. It doesn't mean that we advocating for people to be exploited or people to stay in poverty,
yeah.
but wake up and do something, because
Mm,
also if a person has to employ you, they'll ask you what experience do you have,
mm,
or if you don't have an experience yet, go and volunteer at a school, at a business establishment. There is a skill that you're going to get in the local area. You'll
mm,
find that maybe there's someone who might be running maybe a phone shop or a small internet cafe.
mhm.
There's skills that you're going to acquire from there, which you can use when you're applying for other jobs moving forward.
Yeah.
So start somewhere,
Mm,
start wherever you are, but do something. Do not just sit and think that, okay, I can't. If it's not going to cost you, if you're not going to spend money on transport, you
mm,
just need maybe to get dressed and have lunchbox, go there.
Mm.
3 days in a week, you'll get some experience which would be useful in the future.
Okay. No, makes sense. So that person must literally not give up and apply for anything that they can find and then try to pursue the education that they want to pursue and their dream in that way. Makes sense. Next scenario. You have someone who's got a degree, right? And they're working. That's fine. But now they're thinking of looking at other options in terms of their education. I guess what I want to find out from you is the relevance of, and it leads to one of what my other questions that I was thinking, the relevance of tertiary education in our time. So, how relevant would it be for someone who's got a degree? Because you obviously had a degree before you went on to your honors degree, etc., to your masters at the moment. But what relevance are you finding, or what benefits are you finding for yourself personally in pursuing your education? Or was it all circumstantial or situational, just because you needed the one to apply for the position, as you had mentioned before? Yeah, in terms of your studies. So it alludes to that question of relevance of pursue of furthering your education in today's world, or is it more as a thing that's many people, because many people love studying as well, and they love pursuing the education just for personal reasons, where they're like, yeah, I wanna be a doctor someday, PhD, etc., etc. So is it more for that for you personally, or is it more for I learn so that I gain the skills that I need to do the job? I'm trying to ascertain that and find relevance in pursuing further education.
It's to broaden your horizon
Hmm.
and also to open opportunities,
Yeah,
because we're not the same. There are people who are content in
yeah,
what they do. They'll do
yeah.
the same thing for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years.
Hmm.
I'm one person who get bored easily.
Yeah.
So education has always been there.
Hmm.
I would have wanted, if I stayed in academia for that period while I was still in school, I would
Yeah.
have maybe gotten my PhD maybe at the age of 23, somewhere there, because I
Jeez.
started school very young.
Yeah.
But I believe that everything happened for a reason, because
Mm.
the experience plus the qualification puts me in a
Came
different bracket.
together.
A
Yes.
person who, yes, a person who might graduate in MCOM information system, the one that I'm doing
Hmm.
now graduate with no experience and myself, we're not going to be graded in the same category.
Yeah.
One, they have the they have knowledge, they don't have the skill.
Yeah.
I have knowledge plus skills plus experience.
Yeah.
So already it puts me, you actually making yourself different. I was actually, before I had this interview with you,
Yeah.
I was watching an interview with, I think it's McG together with, he is interviewing Zakes Bantwini.
Yeah.
He's also emphasizing the importance of education, that education sets you apart
Yeah.
from the rest.
Hmm.
We can be in an interview panel or being interviewed, 5 of us.
Hmm.
Probably they can say the entry requirements is a honors degree, the 5 of
Yeah.
us, but
Yeah.
we are not having the same skills. What is it that you are doing to make yourself stand out?
Yeah.
So it also open opportunities for me.
Hmm.
I get to stand out. And at some stage, should I decide one day that I want to go back and give back to the community through education,
Yeah.
with lecturing, you never retire.
Hmm.
You can lecture until you die in front of the students.
Yeah.
So it opened opportunities for you,
Hmm.
it career growth,
Hmm.
as well as expanding knowledge.
Yeah.
Because while I opted to do a coursework in my master's,
Yeah.
the modules that we're doing expose me to a lot of things.
Yeah.
We have this notion of saying, let's have everything on technology. Let's do technology. It's gonna solve our problems. But in part of the modules, there is a module in information system that talks of social issues,
Yeah.
social impact of technology. We
Mm.
say let's do away with Z83. Yes,
Hmm.
it makes sense that to do away with Z83,
Hmm.
but can't we have these programs parallel? Because when you have a Z83, how about the one who doesn't have a computer?
Yeah.
How about the one who doesn't have internet? So it exposes to a lot of things. And in that group of students that you are with in that class, you're not only classmates,
Hmm.
you are networking.
That's
It
true.
opens opportunities for
That's
networking.
true. Alumni coming
You're in,
together. Hmm.
yes, the
Mm.
alumni,
Hmm.
because in my class, I have
Mm.
people that are working in different banks, in different institutions.
Yeah.
So I, in a class of, we're 13, if I'm not mistaken, in class of 13, I have 13 contacts.
Yes. Different
So
industries,
there's more.
different, yeah,
Different industry, different fields, because in
yeah,
as much as we're all doing MCOM in information system, we are in different specialties.
yeah,
So I know that if I get stuck with this, there is someone. Should
yeah,
I decide maybe at one stage to venture into business, I know that, okay, if I need certain things or certain skill set, I'll find it where.
yeah,
So education is not only about getting a job, it
yes,
is also expanding your knowledge and also your
hmm,
thinking.
hmm,
You won't think the same way as you move.
hmm,
Because I look at how I was reasoning as in a degree level
yeah,
and how I reasoned in an honest level, and also as I grow
yeah,
within the ranks of education. And not
mm,
only studying the path of the professional qualification,
mm,
being multi-skilled, because I also did instructional designing, I did
yeah.
online facilitation, I also did introduction to
Keep
South
it,
African Sign Language.
you keep it moving.
So,
Yeah, sign
so
language.
you keep
Yeah,
it moving
yeah.
with
Jeez.
sign language, because
Yeah,
I never, okay, I knew that there was an importance for sign language. But
yeah.
when you look at when you're watching the news, that box at the corner, we
Hmm.
don't focus on it so much, but we forget that there is a whole community out there
Yes.
that still need the information, but it's not cascaded to them the same way it is to us. So
Mm,
being multi-skilled, it does open opportunities, because we focus on one skill.
mm,
Some other people at their working environment, they have skills development.
yeah,
Do as many as you can. I was
yeah.
last year, I enrolled in quite a number of online courses while I was doing my master's, because
Yes.
our university has partnered with Coursera.
Hmm.
And I now have skills in project management.
Hmm.
It come have very handy, because I get involved in projects with my current job.
Mm,
So there's endless opportunities. So it does it exposes you to a lot of things, because there are
mm.
those people who believe in entrepreneurship.
Yes.
If I decide one day to go entrepreneurial,
Hmm.
I have a lot of skills.
That you've picked up
By
along
the
the way.
time I was
Hmm.
Yes, by the time I'm still growing my business to the point where I have not maybe I'm not in a space to hire.
Hmm.
I can do certain things for myself. I can do my books, because I did accounting.
Yeah.
I can do the information system part of the business. I can do the administration part. So already all those things fit into that.
I
So
see.
it does open a lot of opportunities.
I see. So basically, Zetu, you're a collector of knowledge. So you keep on picking, taking bits and pieces here and there. Sounds like that to me. You keep on, because you'll never know when you'll actually use them. And from your life
Mm,
experiences, it seems like God always gives you that opportunity to actually use those skills. So that is really, really
true.
great. That's really, really great. So any last pieces of advice, Zetu, for anyone out there that is already discouraged and is actually in a similar situation to the one that you were in years ago? Um, just any last words, parting words?
Parting words, I would say it's very important to have a support system.
Hmm.
It can be in a form of friends, it can be in a form of family,
Hmm.
and also nature relationships.
Hmm.
Relationships are a two-way. In the age that we're living in, people now want to be associated with who's who.
Hmm.
What do I stand to benefit from that person?
Hmm.
At times, it might not be contacts in a sense of maybe opening doors for you,
Hmm.
but there will be some lessons that you'll get from
Yeah.
a particular person. So
Mm.
every person you encounter along the way of life, do not take them for granted,
Mm.
because we are now more on, we have what we call a social currency.
Mm.
It plays a major role, social
Mm.
currency. You might be in a queue
Mm.
with an old woman who you might disregard and say, what am I going to get from this person? Their
Mm.
days on earth, they are already numbered.
Mm.
But you don't know who they might be associated with. You
Mm.
don't know their children. You
Mm.
don't know anything that they can connect you to.
Mm.
So nature relationship is very important in every area aspect. Can it be business? It can be career. It can be anywhere.
Mm.
Nature relationships.
Mm.
So I would say people should nurture relationships. They should give in as well as they want to get out, because there are those people who want to be a gimme, gimme, gimme. If I had an opportunity or I saw an opportunity, it doesn't hurt me to take a post that has been advertised and put it on my WhatsApp status, I lose nothing out of it. Share information as much as you can. You are not doing it for someone to appreciate you or to say thank you. It is also about giving back. I might have gotten opportunities because someone shared it with someone. So, nurture relationship, share information, give back where you can, helping a person as much as you won't get a monetary fulfillment. Some does actually, because I believe in life working in laws. You might help a person today and you forget about them. You
Yeah.
find that tomorrow a stranger will come in your aid and assist you. So let us go back to our values as Africans, Ubuntu,
Mm.
what we used to be.
Mm.
You were never stranded.
Mm.
If you walk and it gets dark, you'll go to the nearest house where you saw the light and they will let you in and they will let you sleep. Let's go back to who we were before
Mm.
what we are today. And I believe in the social environment, it's still possible.
Yeah.
I have made contacts online whereby you just started conversating, and from there, you find that this person would actually take it to the next level. So it's not only about what they can do for you. Sometimes it's just about human relations. Sometimes that person can be a support structure. I'm going through a lot. When you are going through a lot, because I know the journey of unemployment is very, very lonely, can be very painful. And in the environment, you're not even taken seriously if they don't
At
know what
all.
to do for a living.
At all. Mm.
You don't have a voice.
Mm.
So let us just learn to say, when you meet a person, let it be an opportunity to extend good and also they extend good to you. I believe in that way. We will go far in life.
Mm. Very inspiring.
I'll believe that those are my parting words.
Zethu, from my conversation with you, I think we should have a series or something where you just keep on dropping these pearls of wisdom. No, man. Thank you very much for actually taking part in this conversation. I really do believe that we actually, I'd say we touched up on topics that are actually huge topics, but you managed to make them very clear and easy for us to understand. And at least I'd say we've got a starting point where we can start to tackle them. As I had mentioned, obviously earlier on, with this episode in particular, after the uploads and all those types of things have been sorted out, I really will make sure that I share it with with the people that I think need to hear it the most, especially since change needs to actually, someone needs to do something. So yeah, impact basically. So yeah, so thank you very much, Zeti, for this episode, and thank you guys for watching this episode. And yeah, man, I just hope that there'll be many more conversations there too, and I'm wishing you all the best in your future endeavors, as clearly you'll continue to pursue further opportunities in education and to impart your knowledge, man. And yeah, and like I said, hope to continue with more of these in the future. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.